During the summer of 1983, in a quiet town near Minneapolis, Minnesota, the charred body of a woman was found inside the kitchen stove of a small farmhouse. A video camera was also found in the kitchen, standing on a tripod and pointing at the oven. No tape was found inside the camera at the time. Although the scene was originally labeled as a homicide by police, an unmarked VHS tape was later discovered at the bottom of the farm's well, which had apparently dried up earlier that year. Despite its worn condition and the fact that it contained no audio, police were still able to view the contents of the tape. It depicted a woman recording herself in front of a video camera, seemingly using the same camera the police found in the kitchen. After positioning the camera to include both her and the kitchen stove in the image, the tape then showed her turning on the oven, opening the door, crawling inside, and then closing the door behind her. 8 minutes into the video, the oven could be seen shaking violently, after which point thick black smoke could be seen emanating from it. For the remaining 45 minutes of the video, until the batteries in the camera died, it remained in its stationary position. To avoid disturbing the local community, police never released any information about the tape, or even the fact that it was found. Police were not able to determine who put the tape in the well, or why the height and stature of the woman in the video didn't come close to matching the body they'd found in the oven. Oh, edgelords unite. Edgelords unite. Who doesn't love creepypastas, dude? I don't want to know the man that doesn't love him a good, solid creepypasta. What's up, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. How's it going? Good evening. Basically randomness. How's everybody doing tonight? 'Twas fun, 'twas edgy. That's cool. Maybe we'll do it a couple more times tonight. I'm kind of got this. So you guys are kind of getting a first look at the kind of way I'm going to shoot Cinema for Cynics from now on. Now, of course, the lights won't always be crazy like this, but this will be where I'm sitting and kind of how I'm shot. Although, I'm on a webcam now. I'll be shooting on a much nicer camera, but we're about halfway there. Let's put it that way. Looks like Paul is in a mad scientist themed room. Yeah. That's cool. Bloodbeard the Paul. Just in. What the fuck is happening? Nothing, man. We're hanging out, enjoying my new edgy lighting. These lights are really cool. I can it might get a little annoying for all of you, so let's just slow down the strobing for a little bit. Do you listen to any creepypasta YouTubers like Mr. Creepypasta or Creeps McPasta? Yes, I do. You can't even hear me? Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm upstairs where my bedroom is as well, so it's good to know that Ashley can't even hear what I'm doing in here. Good testing. Good testing. Let's see. I wanted this light to kind of shift around. I'm still getting used to the lights, but let's see here. Yeah, there we go. That should do it, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. Paul, I have a story I want you to read. It's an SCP, but most of it's in a diary format. I think you'd find it really interesting. Mind if I DM it to you on Twitter? Sure, man. Go for it. We should probably try and stick to, like, the shorter ones tonight if we're gonna do that, right? I think that would be the smart thing to do. Recite the Pills creepypasta in its entirety. That's like a 3-hour-long creepypasta, dude. But I did it all in one sitting, in one take. The dude that I did that for, Dead Pasta, he fucking didn't have to do a whole lot of cutting. So it worked out pretty well. If you guys have any short ones you want me to give a try to, let me know, I guess. Let me know what the name of them is, and I can go look it up, and we can give it a try. Make a creepypasta yourself. Okay. One night, I was lying in my bed, like I did so many nights, hoping that sleep would come, hoping that I wouldn't hear the rattling sound coming from my closet. But of course I did. And when I walked over to the closet and swung the door wide open to see what the clutter was, a skeleton popped out. How about that one? Did that work for you guys? Did that send a shiver down your spine? Did you make this ambiance? Yeah, man. I did make this ambiance. Oh, you mean like the music? No, it's just some royalty-free spooker music. What's the ending? A skeleton popped out. Didn't you? Weren't you listening? Oh my God, Paul! This looks like the Texas Skyping days from DP. Oh, cool. I got a fuzzy feeling in my ball sack for a moment. Lemon Party, great creepypasta. Okay, yeah, let me go to Lemon Party, dude. Georgie, do you, like, do I look like I was born yesterday? That I don't know what Lemon Party is? Dude, don't try and foist your sour lies upon me, sir. I know what Lemon Party is, okay? Good night, honey. Has the story ended? Well, yeah. The skeleton... Whatever. You guys just didn't get the deep, meaningful subtext of that story. Go to Meat Spin creepypasta. Ha 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 ha. Your thoughts on the death of Billy Graham? It's about time. You sent 2 over to my Twitter? Okay. Well, let me grab something here real quick. Let's do this. Sounds pretty good. That's kind of like the same as the other one I'm using. What about this one? Nope. What about this one? Nope. I've already got that one, so I guess I'll just drag it over. It's a pretty good one. I'll have to turn it way down, but anyway, let's put it over here. Be quiet. Okay. Sorry, just trying to set up some different music and stuff so I can read one of these. Let's go to my Twitter, and I will check out what has been sent. Okay. This is... Dude, there's no way I can do this. This is like a fucking technical manual or some shit. Alright, let's try this one. What? SCP? So this is just like reading of fucking... Wait a minute, what? This is bullshit, dude. Why'd you send me this shit? This is not creepypastas. This is like how to contain monsters or some shit. Whatever. Bullshit! Creepypasta porn. Read some stories from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Okay, that's a pretty good idea. All right, let's see if I can find any. Because that one used to scare the shit out of me, man. Let's see. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Oh, yeah. Yeah, some of these are really good. I remember them. Let's see. What would be a good one? What would be a good one to read? This is pretty good. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, bro. Anyway. Spooky Spaghettis. Yeah, I'm gonna read this one. Well, hold on, dude. It's so hard to fucking choose. Yeah, I'll read this. Let's get it going. Let me crank down the volume on this one a little bit. All right. Are you ready? Prepare to be spooked. There was an old farmer in Arizona who owned the best farm in the area. Everyone said his crops was the best, and people came from all over to buy their goods from him. Whenever people asked him how he was able to grow such good quality crops, the old farmer would say it was all down to his scarecrow. "That old scarecrow's the one I have to thank," said the farmer. "He makes sure no crows or critters or pests come near my crops." The old farmer had built the scarecrow himself, and it was a fearsome sight. He spent months working on it to make it scary as possible. He knew how important it was to keep pests away from his crops, so he gave it enormous straw arms that stretched out about 6 feet and big long legs that made it as tall as a tree. But the scariest thing about the scarecrow was its head. The farmer carved it himself out of this huge pumpkin. He spent countless days and nights perfecting his design until it was just right. The scarecrow's face and head was so grotesque and ugly that even he was sometimes scared to look at it, but it was very effective, scaring away every rodent and bird that ventured near. And the neighboring farm was owned by 2 young men who were brothers named Josh and Harold. They were lazy, never did much work around the farm, which resulted in their crops being bad, and they were jealous of the old farmer's success and were plotting against him. They could drive him out of his business, they could take over his farm and make some more money. So one night, the brothers decided to sneak... Hold on. Yep, there we go. So one night, the brothers decided to sneak into the old farmer's land. They stole his prized scarecrow and brought it back to their own house, where they stuffed it into an old closet so nobody would ever find it. The next day, the farmer woke up to find his hideous scarecrow missing, all of his crops being eaten by rats and crows. He fell to his knees and cried, knowing that his farm would soon be out of business. Meanwhile, the brothers, Josh and Harold, were just watching from their own property and couldn't help laughing out loud when they saw the old man's tears of grief. Hearing the laughter, the old farmer came over and asked him if they knew what happened to his scarecrow. The brothers looked him right in the eye and said they had no idea where his precious scarecrow might be. "But you know I'll go out of business and I'll have to sell my farm if I can't find my scarecrow," said the farmer. Josh just laughed in his face, saying, "That's just your tough luck, isn't it?" "Sucks to be you," giggled Harold. The old farmer walked slowly back to his house, his head hanging down in defeat and depression. That night, as Josh and Harold had trouble sleeping, not because they felt any remorse, but because they couldn't get that image of the Scarecrow's horrible, twisted face out of their minds. They decided that they'd never be able to sleep as long as that ugly pumpkin head was in their house, so they got up and dragged the Scarecrow out of the closet. Harold took a baseball bat, smashed the Scarecrow's head to pieces until all that was left was little bits of pumpkin strewn about the floor. The brothers swept up the pumpkin head pieces and threw them in the trash. Then they went back to bed and were soon fast asleep, having put all thoughts of the disgusting Scarecrow face right out of their heads. Sometime after midnight, Josh and Harold were awoken by the sounds of scratching and clawing at the bedroom door. "Did you forget to put the dog out?" asked Harold sleepily. "We don't have a dog," stammered Josh. Suddenly, the bedroom door burst open and a solitary long straw arm snaked in through the opening. Then a second arm thrashed around, followed by two long stick legs. The two brothers were frozen in fear and can only look with horror. The headless Scarecrow's body rose up on its long stick legs, and its long arms reached out for them from the darkness. Harold felt a cold, sinewy straw close around his ankle and screamed as loud as he could. He begged his brother Josh to help him, but Josh was already running out of the bedroom. Fleeing in terror, he ran down the hallway, crashed through the front door, and out into the moonlit road. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, puffing and panting and screaming at the top of his voice. As he passed his neighbor's house, he saw the old farmer standing at his gate. In the moonlight, you could see the farmer just staring at him, with a strange smile on his face. Josh kept running, his bare feet slapping against the rough gravel road. He glanced back over his shoulder and saw something that scared him to his very soul. He saw the Scarecrow running along close behind him. It was gaining on him, coming closer and closer. And that wasn't all he saw. He noticed that the Scarecrow had a brand new head, and it looked a lot like his brother Harold. Not as scary as the skeleton that popped out of the closet. Holy shit, man. That was a good one. I haven't read that since I was a kid. Yeah, that was fun. This was Shiat, Boo. You didn't like that stuff, man? It's pretty good. I mean, it's a little kiddie. Like, could you shut the dog up? We don't have a dog. I mean, it's hard to not, you know what I mean? It's hard to maintain your decorum when you run across something like that, but it's for kids, man. It's for kids. Maybe, you know, suggest me one that's not as kiddie, you know what I mean? Takes more than that to scare me. That thoroughly spooked me. I liked the lighting and the story, man. Good shit. Well, thank you. It was good. More, please. You weren't even scared? Oh, man. Well, I'll try harder. Let's see. This is one of my favorite ones. You've probably heard it before. But we'll give it a go, yeah? Very short. So we won't need much ambiance, but let's just let it go, okay? There was a hunter in the woods who, after a long day of hunting, was in the middle of an immense forest. It was getting dark, and having lost his bearings, he decided to head in one direction until he was clear of the increasingly oppressive foliage. After what seemed like hours, he came across a cabin, a small clearing. Realizing how dark it had grown, he decided to see if he could stay there for the night, so he approached and found the door... He approached and found the door ajar. There you go. The door ajar. Nobody was inside. The hunter flopped down on the single bed, deciding to explain himself to the owner in the morning. As he looked around inside the cabin, he was surprised to see the walls adorned by several portraits, all painted in incredible detail. Without exception, they appeared to be staring down at him, their features twisted into looks of hatred and malice. Staring back, he grew increasingly uncomfortable. Making a concerted effort to ignore the many hateful faces, he turned to face the wall and, exhausted, fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, the hunter awoke. He turned, blinking in unexpected sunlight, and looking up, discovered that the cabin had no portraits, only windows. Damn! Damn! That one's scary because it was actually a bunch of hateful people just staring at him all night. Sorry, did I ruin it by explaining it? Yep, that's a good one. The windows were really TVs, yeah. But who was phone? I don't know. The story doesn't answer that question. I just read Harold, dude. I like the Russian sleep experiment, but it's pretty long, dude. I don't know that I want to commit to a super long one right now. I'm just going to chill with you guys for a little bit. We'll do some ideologizing for a little while. Read Stairs? Okay, I'll check into it. I'll look up Stairs and see how long it is. So yeah, I'm kind of really itching to use this stuff, and this is really the only way I can do that now. So Stairs. Oh yeah. Okay, well we can do that. Yeah, we can definitely do this one. In fact, why not? But you know what? Let's do this first. Let's find... We need some more ambiance, right? No, that's a little too techno-y. Let's see. What about this one? What about this one? Okay, yes. This is good. We're gonna just, We're gonna download this bad boy and put it right to work. Okay. Let's just let that ambiance seep in for a second. This is a good one. In 1984, there lived an old widowed lady by herself in a 2-story house who was completely immobile and bound to her wheelchair. Ever since the mysterious death of her husband, she required the aid of a carer who would visit her daily to help with her everyday tasks. What made it even more difficult was the fact that the 2 floors of the house were only connected by an old staircase inside. When the old lady needed to move between the 2, the carer would have to carry her frail body like an infant up and down the stairs. One day, the police received a call from the widow. There had been a murder. Since police units were scarce at the time and the murderer had already fled the scene, only one detective was sent out to conduct the initial crime scene report. He arrived to see the carer's body splayed out on the floor, with her vocal cords ripped out in a pool of blood on the first level of the house, with the old lady atop the staircase in her wheelchair watching him, still and silently, seemingly in shock. He could immediately rule her out as a suspect due to her inability to move up and down the stairs, and because she was trapped up there the time the murder took place. It was similar to the death of her husband many years ago, who had suffocated in his sleep on the couch downstairs. The detective put on his gloves, took photos, swabbed for evidence, and covered the body until the coroner arrived later, all routine business. He scoped the house downstairs for any clues, then asked the old lady if he could look upstairs. She insisted that she was upstairs the whole time and no one apart from her had been up there that day, but regardless of this, the detective ascended the staircase, to which she hesitantly moved aside. Beyond the staircase, there was a narrow corridor with 3 closed doors along it. He checked behind each one of the doors. The empty bedroom, nothing. The bathroom, nothing. He became anxious as he slowly made his way to the final bedroom where the old lady slept. He opened it, and everything looked normal. A bed, a wardrobe, a bedside table with a lamp. He checked every wall of the room in horror, as if it was not what he discovered, but what he didn't discover that made him stop dead in his tracks and slowly reach for his gun in its holster. It was a detail so minor that they had completely overlooked it on the last investigation of the husband's death. There was no phone upstairs. He suddenly heard a noise as he withdrew his gun and rushed out of the room, only to find an empty wheelchair atop the stairs. Yeah, that's pretty good. There's one that I really like. It might be kind of long, but it's kind of similar. Let's see. Mediocre at best. You didn't like that pasta? I think it's pretty good. You don't get it? So the old lady had another husband that died, and she wasn't even considered a suspect because she was crippled and couldn't get down the stairs, and she was upstairs when the murder happened. And the cop discovered that in both instances she had called 911, and in both instances there's no phone upstairs. Dun, dun, dun. The old lady's a creepy murderer. It's been knocking off her husband, right? There's one... yeah. I think I remember what it is. Let me find it. Yeah, this is really good. It's an oldie but a goodie. But it's not too long to do. It's a little longer than the last one. So let's get the ambiance going. I'll give it a read. I like this one a lot. I have nightmares where I'm trapped in the shower. The drain is plugged and the water won't stop pouring down on me, and it rises to my ankles, to my waist, and then up over my head. The shower curtain turns to glass and my screams turn into gargles, and a dark figure presses its face against the glass on the other side, and it watches me, and I plead, but it won't let me out. I swallow water and I helplessly flail in this glass coffin, and I wake up gagging. I know where the nightmare came from. I never have to dig deep. The incident is never far from my subconscious, and finding it is easy. Getting over it is not. It was the summer of my 12th birthday when the Hudsons moved in across the street. 3 people, one of them a really old woman. She was tiny, frail, like skeletal almost. Thin white hair, faded blue flowery dress. Her head hung from her neck as it wobbled as a man pushed her up a makeshift wheelchair ramp into the house. At the time, I couldn't figure out if she was alive or dead. A few minutes later, she appeared in an upstairs window, just sitting in her wheelchair. She was directly facing my bedroom, and I cautiously peered out from behind my curtains. Her head was upright now, and she stared at me, just stared without moving her head an inch. I just closed my drapes. For days, she sat at that window. She watched the cars putter down our suburban road and gazed at the neighborhood's kids scurrying through their yards. I never saw anyone else in the room, never saw her move from that wheelchair. At night, I'd nervously peek through the crack in my drapes. Her silhouette was still in that window, lights off, just staring out into the darkness at my bedroom. I couldn't tell for sure, but I just somehow knew she was watching me. The stories about her cropped up pretty quick amongst my friends in the neighborhood. That she was a witch, that she was just a doll, that she was actually dead. But I knew she wasn't dead. Sure, I never saw her move from that window, not once, and I never saw her head turn, but I felt her eyes move as they studied me. I could feel her watching me. All alone in my bedroom in the middle of the night with my drapes firmly shut, I'd wake up and just shudder. Her eyes, they were on me, and I just knew it. I began sleeping on the floor. Like, the lower I was, the better, because maybe she couldn't see me if I was on the floor. I told my parents that the old woman across the street was creeping me out, and I pleaded with them to talk to the Hudsons and have them move her to a room without a window, and they laughed at me and told me to let her live out her twilight years in peace. She was just watching the street, they said. It probably made her feel happy and feel young. Are you just going to stick me in a windowless room when I'm an old lady, my mom asked, reminding me to move in with your sister when I'm in a wheelchair? A week later, there was some commotion at the Hudsons. I watched from my bedroom window as the man ran out of the house and opened up the double doors of his van. He jogged inside, and he reappeared minutes later, pushing the old woman in her wheelchair down the ramp. She looked even frailer than before. She couldn't have weighed more than 70 pounds. I mean, her head was flung to the side, resting on the right shoulder. Her body jostled around in the wheelchair. But her eyes, they never left me. Watched me the whole time. The man picked her up and placed her in the car. He folded the wheelchair and stuffed it in the trunk. He quickly hopped into the driver's seat. The younger woman pounced into the passenger seat, and the man put his foot to the pedal. The old woman's limp head still faced me. It just bobbed up and down as the van reversed down the driveway. I studied her face. It was expressionless, emotionless. Her tongue slightly hung from the right side of her mouth, but her eyes were on mine, and they stayed on mine. The van accelerated down the street, and it was gone. My parents heard the news that afternoon from other neighbors. The old woman's condition was getting worse, and the Hudsons had taken her to some sort of a home. She wouldn't be coming back. I went straight to my bedroom, and I looked across the street, and I just smiled. Her window was finally empty. The Hudsons didn't come back the next day. No van. That night, I looked out towards the old woman's window. There was no one there, no wheelchair, but the bedroom light was on. I remember telling my dad I thought it was strange, and he just shrugged and said, "Must be on some sort of timer or something." I woke up in the middle of the night and nervously peered out of my bedroom window, and that bedroom light was still on. It suddenly flicked off, and I ducked below my window frame, and I slowly rose and looked out, expecting to see the silhouette of that tiny, skeletal woman. I watched for 10 minutes, pinching and straining my eyes, but the lights quickly flickered on and then off again. I slept on the floor again, clutching my pillowcase. I had a late baseball practice the next evening, so when I got home, my house was empty. My parents were at my little sister's softball game, so I headed to the shower to rinse off. About 3 minutes into my shower, I felt cold. The hot steam was escaping the bathroom somehow, which didn't make sense because I know I'd shut the door. I wiped the shampoo from my eyes, turned my head, and I heard a strange noise that would haunt my nightmares for years. The metal rings on the shower curtain being dragged across the shower rod. Someone was slowly opening the curtain. The shampoo stung my eyes, and through the stinging I saw a dark figure behind the curtain. Long, pale, bony fingers gripped the curtain as it slowly opened. I instinctively backed up in the shower, and the curtain opened completely. And there stood the old woman. I must have only looked at her for 1, maybe 2 seconds, but at that moment time stood still. And all these years later, I can still draw you a vivid picture of the horrifying image in front of me. Disheveled, white hair, crazy in her eyes, bones jutting out from underneath her stretched skin, stark naked, blotchy skin, warts all over her body, skinny breasts just hanging to her waist, hair where I didn't know people could grow hair. She smiled grotesquely, and I felt the shower tile against my back and the hot water pound my face. In her other hand, the old woman held a letter opener. "August," she mumbled. "August, August." I just leapt past her, knocking her tiny little body to the floor, and I ran downstairs naked and sopping wet. In my panic, I somehow remembered I was nude, and I yanked a pair of shorts out of the hamper in the laundry room, sending the hamper crashing to the floor, and I just hightailed it on foot down the street, eventually winding up at my friend's house. When the police arrived, they found the old woman crumpled in a heap in the bathroom. The shower was still running. The police were all really nice to me, admiring me for my bravery, and I told them what she said to me, August, and asked if they knew what she could have meant. "Well, it'll be August in a few days," one of them shrugged, "and you can never really fully understand old and crazy, son." The Hudsons only came to our street once more to retrieve their stuff. The for sale sign was up in days. My mom told me they couldn't face the neighbors for what happened. Apparently they had taken the old woman, the man's mother, to a special home downstate. Somehow, some way, the woman had managed to escape that home and caught a bus back to our town. Never quite makes sense to me. She was so old and frail and helpless. She could barely move those weeks she lived at that house. I mean, how had she managed to travel hundreds of miles on her own? Anyway, you can imagine what this did to me. I didn't shower for 21 years. I took baths, which I suppose aren't that different. It's still a tub, and it still involves hot, soapy water, but a shower with its closed curtain, water peppering the tub floor, and steam climbing the walls. You just get lost in your head in the shower. Thoughts consume you, and it feels so utterly safe. For a few minutes, you're alone from the world. It's your own private little misty kingdom. But that's what makes the shower dangerous. You're enclosed and vulnerable, and you're naked. You're exposed. I talked to people about it, my parents, a shrink, but I mainly tried to push the incident deep down into places where I couldn't find it. I didn't talk about it with anyone since I was a kid. Life carried on. Besides the baths, I was pretty normal. A few months ago, something inside me clicked, and I felt the urge to re-examine the incident. It was almost like A voice in my head was telling me to do it. My head wanted closure. So I spent hours online one night trying to track down any information on the Hudsons and that old woman. I finally found what I was looking for, an obituary for the old woman. She had died 4 years ago. I mean, somehow that walking skeleton hadn't checked out another 15 years. The obituary photo was a black and white picture from when she was a young woman. It was a photo of her and her deceased husband on their wedding day. His name was August, and he looked exactly like me. I closed the browser and I stared at my computer desktop for like 10 minutes. It finally made more sense why she called me August, why she was obsessed with watching me. I mean, maybe she used to write letters to her husband, and that's why she was clutching the letter opener that night. For a small moment, I felt a little better. I mean, things always feel better when they make more sense. "Honey, is everything okay?" It was my wife. "I think so," I said. I took the first shower I had taken in years that night. I didn't even jump when the curtain rungs dragged across the shower rod and my wife entered. But as she embraced me under the hot water, one question wouldn't leave my head. How come the young woman in that wedding photo looks exactly like my wife? Okay. Like most things, the ending is a little lame, but the story is pretty cool. I mean, you gotta admit that, right? You gotta be able to admit that. Time traveling craziness. It's not bad, right? I like the build up, the old woman. There's another good one that I'll read in a little bit. I'm gonna take a break here and smoke some totally legal tobacco and just kind of chill and pay some attention to you guys. And also, why is my wife a skeleton? And why do her tits now hang down past her waist? Predictable ending? Kinda. I agree. She probably does look like Hillary looks now, but not as skinny. That dude said she was like 70 pounds. Hillary's like 270 pounds. Sonic the Hedgehog creepypasta? No, thank you. Yeah. Dude, it's way too spoopy. Who names their kids August? People back in the day probably named their kids August. The ending of I look just like her husband would have been better. Adding the time travel stuff was a bit silly. I agree. That story would be greater, I think, if it bailed right there. August. I mean, it's really you gotta admit, especially in horror, the ending is the hardest thing, right? You gotta know right when to pull the ripcord on a story, and you might want to have a little button that just doesn't work, as much as you want it to. Hillary Clinton creepypasta about a spooky figure that no one wants, constantly appearing year after year, yeah, to run for president. I mean, I don't know. I can enjoy the journey of a creepypasta and kind of giggle at the ending sometimes. I'm going to pull up another one of my favorite ones here. Yeah, okay, I found it. This is the right one. I'll read it here in a little bit. Like I said, take a little break, clear my throat a little bit. I should try heroin. No, thank you. I'll pass. Read the Chuck E. Cheese one. I think I've read it. But yeah, I've got another one of my favorite ones pulled up here. I guess I'll just launch into it. I feel like doing another one, so we'll just we'll do the. This one is called "I Won't Take Care of My Sister Anymore." I've never been straight with anybody, so I'm just going to tell you something that's true. I hate my family. My older sister moved out of state with hardly a goodbye. My dad's dead. I always hoped my mom would follow him, and one day she did. She left behind a crap load of money in this big 6-bedroom house set outside the city with a stream running beside it. My dad had left her a $2 million fortune, enough to live on with change, especially since she was too much of a skinflint to spend any of it. Now she was dead, the house and the money just sat there, and I didn't expect to see a penny. Me and Mum had always hated each other. We didn't have little spats. We had this full-on feud, and growing up, my cheeks would always be red from where she'd slap me. Sometimes she did it backhand and cut my face with her engagement ring. Yeah, we just hated each other, I guess. Never got any better when I matured, and she didn't mellow with old age. She just got more and more spiteful, and by the time she died, we'd gone like 5 years, 6 years without speaking. To some extent, I sympathized with her. I mean, she'd had a hard life. My dad spent 4 nights a week out of the marital bed and used to call her ugly and wouldn't let her have self-esteem. It was a depressing marriage. And then there was my younger sister. She was 10 years my junior, and from the minute she was born, she was the favorite. Always getting hugs from Mom, and I don't want to whine, but I resented it, and I was cruel to her, because, well, call it my mother's side getting through. That changed when my sister had her accident. She fell 20 feet out of a maple tree and thumped her head right on the floor. They said when they found her that blood trickled out of her ears, and she was already comatose, and she's never woken up. I told you I didn't expect a penny from the will, so you can imagine my surprise when our family lawyer told me I was the sole heir. Yep, he was surprised too. $2 million and a 6-bedroom house were mine, but on one condition. I had to move in and become my sister's sole carer. Caring for a coma victim isn't hard, to be honest, but you just have to listen out for irregular beeps on the machines that they have her hooked up to. She had these nurses who came once a day to check on everything, so I didn't have to do a thing, and I was a multi-millionaire for it. But I hated being in the same house as her. I mean, she's my sister and all, but after so long in a coma, I mean, in my opinion, you're already dead. That, coupled with how she looked, meant I couldn't see her as my sister. I mean, she was a woman, technically, but she'd never developed, so she was more like this freakishly tall child. Her bones stuck out, her skin was gray, and her face had the absent look of a corpse. At the beginning, it was unnerving sleeping in the room next door to her. I'd lie in bed trying to sleep, but all I could think about was her on the other side of the wall, just immobile and mute. One night, she scared the hell right out of me. I was stretched out on my bed, lights off, house just as silent as ever, and then I heard this bang from my sister's room and something clattered to the floor. I thought she'd fallen out of bed, like maybe the nurse had left her in a funny position. So I ran into her room, but she was laid down like always, face just staring absently at the ceiling. On the other side of the room, a photo frame was on the floor. A few nights later, the nurse called in sick, so I checked on my sister myself. I made sure she was nowhere near the edge of the bed. I'd gotten paranoid, and I switched off the light. It was too early to go to bed, so I had a few drinks. The thing about my bladder is it only acts up when I'm in bed, and sure enough, as soon as I tried to go to bed that night, I had an urge to go to the toilet. On the way there, I noticed my sister's door was slightly ajar. I probably just hadn't closed it right, but after the photo frame incident, I thought I'd better check. Everything seemed fine, but when I looked at my sister, I was sure she was wearing a different gown. Now, I wouldn't bet my dead mom's house on it, and you write that kind of thing off, don't you? But it must have just been a trick of the brain. That explanation, I guess, satisfied me at the time, and I slept for a few hours, but the next day had me doubting myself again. The nurse was well enough to visit the next night, and she did the usual checks. Before she left, she grabbed me for a word. "I'm sorry about last night," she said. "It was short notice, but you did a great job." "It was nothing," I said. "No, you were great. I didn't think you'd change your clothes and everything." That got my attention. I didn't press it because the nurse would never believe me, but you can bet I didn't sleep easy from then on. Every reasonable explanation ran through my head. Did I change her and forget? Was the nurse mistaken? I didn't have a clue. All I know is I never went in my sister's room unless I could avoid it. A few weeks later, I didn't have a choice. The machines she's hooked up to have alarms, and one night they started making this racket. So I got my ass into her room as quick as I could, and as soon as I did, the alarms just stopped. It was a big relief, honestly, and then I looked at my sister's face. Her mouth was wide open, an enormous cavity just aimed at the ceiling, the corners of her lips crooked. They said it was just a reflex, but as much as I wanted to buy it, I still moved my bedroom to the other side of the house as far away as I could get. And I'd still hear noises every night, scaring the crap out of me every time. I lost sleep, and I was a stressed-out wreck. As pathetic as it sounds, I didn't dare go check on her. And then, something happened that made me move out of the house. It was a rare night where I felt like I was going to get some sleep, you know? It was in that in-between stage where you know you're on the edge of sleep, but you're not quite there yet. Then my bedroom door opened and banged shut. It just shook me straight out of drowsiness, and I sat up in bed, and I could feel something in the room with me. It just wasn't right. On the floor beside me, lit in the moonlight, was my sister. Her body just rigid, and her mouth wide open. And her face pointed right at mine. That one's pretty spoopy. Come on, man. You gotta give me that one. You gotta admit to me, right? That one's got a good button too. But who was phone? You think that's what it was? She wanted the D? Theory, he pushed her out of the tree. Maybe. That'd be pretty good. Cool, man. You guys remember Fantasia lights? Yeah. Rats in the walls. I love that story, but I need to take a little Liquid break. That one is honestly one of my favorites. The one I just read. In fact, two of my favorites I've read tonight. I love the August one, and I love that one. I won't take care of my sister anymore. Read Rabbits in the Creek. All right, man. You've been trying to get me to read Rabbits in the Creek. I'll check into it, but I'm going to do my homework. Let's take a look. Reading time, 8 minutes. That's actually not bad, right? It's about as long as the last one. All right, well, I'll keep this one queued up. How's that? I don't know if I'll do it next. I kind of want to do a shorter one, possibly next, but I will keep that tab open for sure. Pothead has cotton mouth. He's so thirsty. That's probably true. Huntsville camping trip. Okay, I'll look that one up too. Maybe that one's a little shorter. Huntsville. Okay. Reading time about the same, about 8 minutes. I could go even more kind of country with this one, dude, because it's about camping. I like reading these and allowing, my kind of like childhood lilting kind of southern bastardized accent to read them. It's a very relaxed accent for me to speak in. The problem is that since I've kind of lost the accent or not, spoken with it daily for most of my adult life, I kind of go in and out of it. So it's something I'd have to work on if I ever wanted to do this for more than just the funsies. Spoopy camping trip. Retarded. Camping trimp? Did I say camping trimp? I like No End House, but it's pretty long, yeah. All right, you guys hang out for just a moment. I will return with some more creepypastas, I guess. I guess that's what we're doing, man. I guess we're doing the creepypastas. So, yeah. I will return momentarily. Chill out if you want to hear some more. Thank you for chilling, and I'll be back. I'm writing this because my family won't talk about it anymore. I'm the only one who can't seem to forget. I was raised on the outskirts of Preston, a small town in southern Idaho with a population of around 5,000. My more immediate community was an isolated, dead-end dirt road called Bear Creek. Less than 20 families lived on the Bear Creek. I didn't mind being so isolated. I grew up in the comfort of wide fields and close neighbors that only rural people can know. We were a Mormon community, very church-centered, very community-centered. All the young girls, myself included, were... What? Girls? Damn it! I was trolled. I was trolled. Man, spooky as fuck. As a little girl. What a piece of shit. I should have known. I should have known, you bastards. That's okay. That's a good way to come back from break anyway. I thought, okay, it's a Mormon. That's fine. Couldn't possibly be a good creepypasta if the main character's female. No, I just can't really read a main character that's female, right? I'm a little too bassy. Whatever. Oh. Some H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe would be cool. Okay, I'll read you my favorite Edgar Allan Poe story. How's that? I think it's pretty short. How short is this story? Okay, so it's not that long. That's great. Wait. Come on now. You piece of shit. All right, here we go. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could. But when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitely settled. But the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It's equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my end, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato, although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmary, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and I bought largely wherever I could. It was about dusk one evening, during the supreme madness of the carnival season, that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the comical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts." "How?" said he. "Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible! And in the middle of carnival!" "I have my doubts," I replied, "and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain." "Amontillado!" "I have my doubts." "Amontillado!" "And I must satisfy them." "Amontillado!" "As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lutresi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me, 'Lucrezi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry.' And yet, some fools will have it that his taste is a match of your own." "Come, then, let us go." "Whither?" "To your vaults." "My friend, no, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Lutresi—" "I have no engagement. Come." "My friend, no. It's not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with niter." "Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado! You have been imposed upon. And as for Lutresi, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado." Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, and putting on a mask of black silk, and drawing a roquelaire closely about my person, I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from their sconces 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I passed down a long, winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent, and stood together upon the damp ground of the catacombs of Montresor. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. "The pipe," he said. "It is farther on," said I, "but observe the white webwork which gleams from these cavern walls." He turned towards me and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled the rheum of intoxication. "Niter?" he asked at length. "Niter," I replied. "How long have you had that cough?" My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. "It is nothing," he said at last. "Come," I said with decision, "we will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy, as I once was. You're a man to be missed. For me, it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucrece." "Enough," he said. "The cough is a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough." True, I replied. And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily, but you should use all proper caution. A draught of this Medoc will defend us for the damps. Here, I knocked the neck off of a bottle which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mold. "Drink," I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused and nodded to me familiarly while his bells jingled. "I drink," he said, "to the buried that repose around us." "And I to your long life." He again took my arm, and we proceeded. "These vaults," he said, "are extensive." "The Montresors," I replied, "were a great and numerous family." "I forget your arms." "A huge human foot d'or in a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent rampant whose fangs are embedded in the heel." "And the motto?" "Nemo me impune lacessit." "Good," he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through long walls of piled skeletons, with casks and puncheons intermingling into the most recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by the arm above the elbow. "The niter," I said. "See, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vaults. We're below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle amongst the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough—" "It is nothing," he said. "Let us go on. But first, another draught of the Medoc." I broke and reached him a flagon of de Grave. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light, and he laughed and he threw the bottle upwards with gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise, and he repeated the movement, a grotesque one. "You do not comprehend," he said. "Not I," I replied. "Then you are not of the Brotherhood." "How?" "You're not of the Masons." "Oh, yes, I said. Yes. "You, impossible, a Mason." "A Mason," I replied. "A sign," he said, "a sign." "It is this," I answered, producing from beneath the folds of my roquelaire a trowel. "You jest," he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces. "But let us proceed to the Amontillado." "Be it so," I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak and offering him my arm again. He leaned upon it heavily. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descending again, arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeaux to glow rather than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another, less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains, piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. 3 sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the 4th side, the bones had been thrown down and lain promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall, thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior crypt or recess, in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. Seemed to have been constructed for no special use within itself, but formed merely the interval between 2 of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, was backed by one of their circumscribing walls of solid granite. It was in vain that Fortunato, uplifting his dull torch, endeavored to pry into the depths of the recess. Its termination, the feeble light did not enable us to see. "Proceed," I said. "Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucrezi—" "He is an ignoramus," interrupted my friend, as he stepped unsteadily forward, while I followed him immediately at his heels. In niche, and finding an instant, he had reached the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more, and I had fettered him to the granite. In its surface were 2 iron staples, distant from each other about 2 feet horizontally. From one of these depended a short chain, from the other a padlock. Throwing the links about his wrist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was too much astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. "Pass your hand," I said, "over the wall. You cannot help but feeling the niter. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But I must first render you all the little attentions in my power." "The Amontillado!" ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. "True," I replied, "the Amontillado." As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials, and with the aid of my trowel, began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of the masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low moaning cry from the depths of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. Then there was a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and then the third, and then the fourth, and then I heard the furious vibrations of a chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken it with more satisfaction, I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. I again paused, holding the flambeau over the macing work, and threw a feeble few rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it at the recess, but the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamor grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its desired position, but now there came from out the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing that of Fortunato. The voice said, "Ha ha ha ha! Oh, a very good joke indeed. An excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo, over our wine." "The Amontillado," I said. Oh, yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will they not be awaiting us at the palazzo, the Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone." "Yes," I said, "let us be gone." For the love of God, Montresor! Yes, I said, for the love of God. But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, Fortunato! No answer. I called again, Fortunato! No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick. It was the dampness of the catacombs that made it so. I hastened to make an end of my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For the half-century, no mortal has disturbed them. Rest in peace. Cool. I like that one, man. That's definitely my favorite Poe story. What does it mean? Well, it was hard to follow. There was a dude who had beef with another guy who decided to settle that beef in a very, very cruel way. Who died? I mean, who do you think died? Fortunato died. After a long time in the dark, in the dampness of the catacombs, coughing into the blackness. We need more of this. We need more of this. You should do from now on. Well, you know, whatever. When I get into the mood, I guess. Huntsville camping trip. Let's see. This one's rating kind of worries me, so you know, you can pretty much trust the creepypasta.com ratings, you know. And this one's got like a 6.4. How unfortunate for Fortunato, yeah. Basically, the dude met Fortunato at the circus, took him back to his cellar, and sealed him into a room with his masonry skills, yeah. Because he did some... I love the foreshadowing in that. Fortunato asking Montresor about what his coat of arms are, and his coat of arms being a golden foot stepping on a serpent which has its fangs embedded in the heel. It's a good one. The scariest thing in this stream was that Windows update sound. Yeah. That was kind of spooky, wasn't it? The Outsider is probably pretty long, if I remember. But nope, not The Outsiders, Google. Thank you for auto-correcting me to The Outsiders, though. Oh yeah, this is pretty long, dude. I mean, I don't know how much longer it would be than some of the others I've read. Let's see. Get a better idea here. Yeah, this is pretty fucking long. I gotta be honest with you too. Lovecraft is pretty hard to read. He was purposefully verbose to the point of almost absurdity sometimes. This shit's awesome, and so are you, Paul. Best live stream ever. Cool, man. Thank you. Glad you're having a good time. It's pretty long. And, like I said, Lovecraft is great, but kind of hard to dive into for a live reading, I need to move you guys over here so I don't have to stare away from my mic. Is Lovecraft basically the horror Shakespeare? I don't know about the horror Shakespeare, but a lot of the genesis of modern horror happened in Shakespeare. So, the horror Shakespeare is what I'm trying to say. Well, I mean, I'm glad you guys seem to be having a good time with this little kind of different way of doing things. And I'm glad I got, I'm getting the opportunity to fuck around with my new set a little bit, play with my lights, and have a good old time. Shakespeare in the sense, well, yeah, I would be way more comfortable reading Shakespeare, though, because I've had way more practice, with his particular kind of vocal stuff. Read Abandoned by Disney. No, dude. No Disney's. The Pedestrian by Bradbury. Okay, is this another attempt to get me to read one that, like, reveals really quickly that, the narrator is a chick and that I really have made a fool of myself? I've made a right jolly old fool of myself. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. There's one called Pedestrian. I don't know if this is the one that I was asked to read. I don't think it is, though. Yeah, okay. Oh, it's Ray Bradbury story, huh? All right, I'll give this one a shot. Why not, dude? Why not? Ray Bradbury deserves a little reading. It's relatively short. I might have to make up character voices as I go because it looks like there's some dialogue. So forgive me if that gets jumbled up. It's kind of hard to do on the fly. I'm not familiar with this piece. So let me blow this up. I like the language. I love how Bradbury writes. So. Get a little mood music. To enter out into that silence that was the city at 8 o'clock of a misty evening in November, to put your feet upon that buckling concrete walk, to step over grassy seams and make your way, hands in pockets, through the silences, that was what Mr. Leonard Mead most dearly loved to do. He would stand upon the corner of an intersection and peer down long moonlit avenues of sidewalk in four directions, deciding which way to go, but it really made no difference. He was alone in this world of AD 2053, or as good as alone. And with a final decision made, a path selected, he would stride off, sending patters of frosty air before him like the smoke of a cigar. Sometimes he would walk for hours and miles and return only at midnight to his house, and on his way he would see the cottages and homes with their dark windows, and it was not unequal to walking through a graveyard where only the faintest glimmers of firefly light appeared in the flickers behind the windows. Sudden gray phantoms seemed to manifest upon inner room walls where a curtain was still withdrawn against the night. Or there were whisperings and murmurs where a window in a tomb-like building was still open. Mr. Leonard Mead would pause, cock his head, listen, look, and march on, his feet making no noise on the lumpy walk. For long ago, he had wisely changed to sneakers when strolling at night, because the dogs in intermittent squads would parallel his journey with barkings if he wore hard heels, and lights might click on, and faces might appear, and an entire street be startled by the passing of a lone figure, himself, in the early November evening. On this particular evening began his journey in a westerly direction towards the hidden sea. There was a good crystal frost in the air. It cut the nose and made the lungs blaze like a Christmas tree inside. You could feel the cold light going on and off, all the branches filled with invisible snow. He listened to the faint push of his soft shoes through the autumn leaves with satisfaction, and whistled a cold, quiet whistle between his teeth, occasionally picking up a leaf as he passed, examining its skeletal pattern in the infrequent lamplights as he went on, smelling its rusty smell. "Hello in there," he whispered to every house on every side as he moved. "What's up tonight on Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 9? Where are the cowboys rushing? Do I see the United States cavalry over the next hill to the rescue?" The street was silent and long and empty, with only his shadow moving like the shadow of a hawk in mid-country. If he closed his eyes and stood very still, frozen, he could imagine himself upon the center of a plain, a wintry, windless Arizona desert with no house in 1,000 miles, and only dry riverbeds, the streets for company. "What is it now?" he asked the houses, noticing his rich wristwatch. 8:30 p.m.? Time for a dozen assorted murders, a quiz, a review, a comedian fallen off the stage. Was that a murmur of laughter from within the moon-white house? He hesitated, but went on when nothing more happened. He stumbled over a particularly uneven section of sidewalk. The cement was vanishing under flowers and grass. In 10 years of walking by night or day for thousands of miles, he had never met another person walking, not once in all that time. He came to a cloverleaf, an intersection which stood silent where 2 main highways crossed the town. During the day, it was a thunderous surge of cars, the gas stations open, a great insect rustling, and a ceaseless jockeying for position as the scarab beetles, a faint incense puttering from their exhaust, skimmed homeward to the far directions. But now, these highways, too, were like streams in a dry season, all stone and bed and moon and radiance. He turned back on a side street, circling around towards his home. He was within a block of his destination when the lone car turned a corner quite suddenly and flashed a fierce white cone of light upon him. He stood entranced, not unlike a night moth stunned by the illumination and then drawn towards it. A metallic voice called to him, "Stand still. Stay where you are. Don't move." He halted. "Put up your hands." But he said, "Your hands up, or we'll shoot." The police, of course, but what a rare, incredible thing. In a city of 3 million, there's only one police car left, wasn't that correct? Ever since a year ago, 2052, the election year, the force had been cut down from 3 cars to 1. Crime was ebbing. There was no need now for the police, save for this one lone car wandering the empty streets. "Your name," said the police car in a metallic whisper. He couldn't see the men in it for the bright light in his eyes. "Leonard Mead," he said. "Speak up." "Leonard Mead. Business or profession?" "I guess you'd call me a writer." "No profession," said the police car, as if talking to itself. The light held him fixed like a museum specimen, needle thrust through chest. "You might say that," said Mr. Mead. He hadn't written in years. Magazines and books didn't sell anymore. Everything went on in the tomb-like houses at night now, he thought, continuing his fancy. The tombs, ill-lit by television light, where people sat like the dead, the gray or multicolored lights touching their faces, but never really touching them. "No profession," said the phonograph voice. "What are you doing out?" "Walking," said Leonard Mead. "Walking?" "Just walking," he said simply, but his face felt cold. "Walking, just walking, walking?" "Yes, sir." "Walking where? For what?" "Walking for air, walking to sea." "Your address?" 11 South St. James Street. "And there's air in your house? You have an air conditioner, Mr. Mead?" "Yes." "You have a viewing screen in your house to see with?" "No." "No!" There was a crackling quiet, and that in itself was an accusation. "Are you married, Mr. Mead?" "No, not married," said the police voice behind the fiery beam. The moon was high and clear amongst the stars, and the houses were gray and silent. "Nobody wanted me," said Leonard Mead with a smile. "Don't speak unless you're spoken to." Leonard Mead just waited in the cold night. "Just walking, Mr. Mead." "Yes. But you haven't explained for what purpose." "I explained for air and to see and just to walk." "Have you done this often?" "Every night for years." The police car sat in the center of the street with its radio throat faintly humming. "Well, Mr. Mead," it said. "Is that all?" he asked politely. "Yes," said the voice. "Here." There was a sigh, a pop. The back door of the police car sprang wide. "Get in." "Wait a minute, I haven't done anything." "Get in." "I protest. Mr. Mead." He walked like a man suddenly drunk. As he passed the front window of the car and looked in, as he had expected, there was no one in the front seat. No one in the car at all. "Get in." He put his hand to the door and peered into the back seat, which was a little cell, a little black jail with bars. It smelled of riveted steel, it smelled of harsh antiseptic. It smelled too clean and hard and metallic. There was nothing soft there. "Now, if you had a wife to give you an alibi," said the iron voice, "but where are you taking me?" The car hesitated, or rather gave a faint whirring click, as if information somewhere was dropping card punch slotted card under dropping card by punch slotted card under electric eyes. "To the Psychiatric Center for Research on Regressive Tendencies." He got in. The door shut with a soft thud. The police car rolled through the night avenues, flashing its dim lights ahead. They passed one house on one street a moment later. One house and an entire city of houses that were dark, but this one particular house had all its electric lights brightly lit, every window a loud yellow illumination, square and warm in the cool darkness. "That's my house," said Leonard Mead, and no one answered him. The car moved down the empty riverbed streets and off away, leaving the empty streets with the empty sidewalks, and no sound and no motion, all the rest of the chill November night. I like that story. That was a cool story. Not like a bone chattering scary, but more of a cautionary tale, right? Name of that story is, once again, The Pedestrian by Ray Bradbury. You don't understand the ending. Well, it's in the future, and there's no longer any police, there's no longer any due process. You're just kind of picked up by a robot. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. This is a pretty fun little diversion, I guess, from once again trying to get unpacked and figure everything out. Yeah, man. It was a lot of fun. I'll take a little break here. Smoke a little tobacco and hang out with you guys for a little bit. I figured, you know what? I'll tell you guys why I did this. Well, one of the reasons I did this tonight. Because I gave you a lot of negativity last night. And I felt kind of bad about giving you that heavy of a dose of negativity. So I thought, well, I can't just go on and be positive. So let's do something that'll, involve everybody that's fun. So there we go. Paybacks for the crazy nihilism streak last night. Although that's not an apology. Just a equalization. You want another one? Okay, well, we'll do another one here in a minute. Maybe something more traditionally scary. Oh, I see. Well, thanks. I accept it. There you go. There you go. Well, at any rate. See how we're doing here. Well, there's quite a few of you here. I haven't really checked the numbers. That's pretty high for an average ideology night. At 2 in the morning, nonetheless. What a crazy bunch of nonsense that is. Maybe read a Crappypasta. I need a good laugh. Okay. Let's find a short Crappypasta because you know what? They deserve love too. Okay. Oh, I just thought of another good one too. I'm going to go read this one first. But we'll do this in a second. But I've got some Crappypasta pulled up here. Let's see. Oh, man. Okay. All right. I've got some lined up for you guys. You guys hang out for a little bit. I'm going to run downstairs and grab something that I need and take a leak. Thank you, as always, for chilling. I will return momentarily. I lie half awake in the middle of the night. To my disbelief, my blanket of silence was broken by the slightest thud on the foot of my bed. Perhaps my breathing moved the mattress just so gently. It shook my bed frame in such manner. I could have forgotten to let my brother's cat out of my room before I went to sleep. The air conditioner could have been activated in a way that this sound came from that end of the wall. It could even be my mind playing tricks on me. That's probably it. However, I keep telling myself that none of these things could be the explanation. They don't explain the static, chilled sensation in the air. They don't explain why I can feel an unwanted presence near my feet, or why I feel like I'm being watched. I calm my breathing. My mind tells me there's some kind of entity that would make me suffer if I chose to open my eyes and look upon it. I don't want it to know I'm awake. If there's something there, it's better not to know. I tell myself made-up quotes that being afraid of ghosts makes them stronger. Quotes I've heard from nowhere. This continues for what seems like hours. I begin to think to myself again, there's no such things as ghosts. I tell myself, I just need to open my eyes and look upon my room to calm down. I was right. There are no ghosts. However, there is a large man watching me sleep. He's holding a knife, and he doesn't look happy to see I'm awake. I'll try to keep this short. I've been chained up in his basement for days, and I'm running out of blood to write with. I just hope the police see this and let my lesson be heard. When you feel like you're being watched, don't open your eyes. He might not like that. Wow. That reveal. Wow. What can I say, man? Crappypastas, dude. They deserve love, too. That was it. Yeah, sorry. That's where it ends. Gotta enjoy the crappypastas from time to time, right? Edit it out? No, I said I was gonna read a crappypasta, and we did. Read the fucking Raven, dude. No. Not the Raven, dude. What a roller coaster ride. I know. Because the whole time you thought he was dreaming, but the nightmare was worse than reality, because there was a guy with a knife in reality. Oh, shit. Oh, man, that twist. That is some edge of your seat shit right there. Well, I'm going to read now another of my favorite creepypastas, and it's a short one and a very cool one. It's called The Couch, a place that I am infinitely familiar with, as I'm sure many of you fellow fatties out there are. Okay, disclaimer. To the very best of my knowledge, this story is true, and I don't expect to convince you. Truth be told, I've had a hard time coming terms to this with, myself. Cliche as it may be, I really am a rational person, and if not for this, I would probably be the most stone-faced atheist you'd ever meet. But after much internal struggle and debate, I have come to the conclusion that there are things in life that simply can't be explained with reason, at least in the form in which we know it. Logic, for all the trust we place in it, is really nothing more than a candle. It's all too easily snuffed out, and when it's gone, we're left alone in the dark, and everything we would scoff at by daylight suddenly becomes very believable. All right, I might be waxing a little too melodramatic here, so here's my story. I was very young, like 4, 5 at most, before either of my siblings were even born. It was just mommy and daddy and me living in our little house in Great Bend, Kansas. Very quaint. We were a young family without much money, and much of our furniture was just secondhand stuff. It was in the middle of the day. It was summer, hot and boring, and I was playing marbles by myself on the thin carpet beside the huge old flower-powdered couch. My mom was down the hall in the kitchen, and Dad was off at work. And why I was trying to roll marbles around on the carpet, I don't know. I mean, we had a perfectly good linoleum floor after all, but there I was, swishing the marbles back and forth, happily bouncing them into each other. And then, in my overzealous enthusiasm, I rolled too hard, and my favorite marble, the clear, ruby red one, zipped into the dark space under the couch and was lost. Damn it. Dad wasn't home, and he was the only one strong enough to move that huge old couch for me, so I'd have to get my marble back myself. I reached my hand under the couch, tentatively at first, and then deeper. Encountering no marbles, I pulled my hand out in disappointment. And then a hand reached out from under the couch back at me. I remember the image vividly, and I suspect that I always will. It was a slim hand with tapered fingers. It was a woman's hand. It was gnarled and wrinkled as if aged. It was dead black. Not black as in African, black as in dead. Of course, back then, I didn't know that corpses blacken as they decompose, so I didn't know what the black meant. The hand reached out to me as far as it could. Okay, I think everything's fine. I think there was a little hiccup. The hand reached out to me as far as it could, which was just up to the wrist. Then it retreated under the couch. Then it emerged again, this time pushing with it a little crumpled up plastic bag with a logo on it I didn't recognize. It waited as if expecting me to take the bag. Then, when I didn't, it pulled the bag back under the couch and it was gone. I got up, walked down to the kitchen, and told my mom what had happened. Why didn't I run screaming, or at least run? I don't really know. All I can say is I was a little kid. A hand reaching out from under the couch at me didn't seem like that huge a deal. I hadn't yet learned what was and what was not permissible in reality. I had no worldview at all. Mom was skeptical, but walked me back to the couch and explained how I was probably imagining things. She even reached her hand under the couch to convince me that nothing was down there. Later, Dad lifted up the couch for me, and the only thing under it was, of course, the marble, plus a few more marbles I didn't even remember losing. But here's the worst part. You see, for years I remembered this. I even developed a weird fantasy of little hand people living under the couch, and I, in my childlike innocence, believed that they would catch me and take me away if I ever reached into their domain again. Then, as I grew older, I wrote the memory off as a dream I had as a child, cute but silly. Then, a few years ago, I recounted the story to my mother. She gave me this funny look and told me she kind of remembered it because, after all, she had been there. She told me that she remembered me coming to her in the middle of the day and telling her about a hand under the couch, and remembered being highly disturbed by my story since I was an extremely quiet, well-behaved kid who did never lie. Then she told me about the couch itself. According to her, she and Dad had gotten the couch from the estate of an old woman who had actually died on it. This was the first time I'd heard about this, but it sure explained why they got rid of the couch within a month of my story. But here's the part that really, really frightens me, even to this day. The part that I have to try so hard to get out of my mind some nights. Remember that bag that the hand pushed out towards me? I never forgot the logo that was on it, and recently, as in a few years ago, I saw the same logo again on what looked like the same type of bag in a hardware store. It was a bag full of utility razors. Damn, dude. That evil old bitch wanted him to slice himself, dude. That evil cunt died on that fucking, couch. Man. Wow. How's she gonna do? That's pretty evil right there, right? Coolman has some short horror here, so let's give it a try. We got to give it the full treatment, though. Even the shortest of horror deserves the full treatment. A few hours after I was buried alive, I was thrilled when I heard someone digging me out. My joy quickly faded when I realized the sound was coming from under me. Damn. So nobody was digging him out. Somebody was digging up underneath. Well, there you go. Not a fan of that ending, but had my butt clenched the whole way through. I mean, it's kind of creepy, right? It's a good way to end it because it has this kind of false ending. I appreciate it for that, right? It tried at the end. It's got the false ending of finding out that an old lady died on the couch, and you're like, oh, that's kind of lame. But then he harkens back to the bag. He was 4 years old, and the desiccated hand of an old woman tried to hand him a bag of razor blades, and you don't get what the implication of that is. I don't know that I can help you, homie. You should read The Think That Stalks the Fields. Okay, I think it's probably The Thing, right? Well, since you generously donated $5, I will add it to the list here. Let's check it out. The Thing That Stalks the Fields. Do, 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 do. Okay, yeah, not super long. So we'll definitely take a look at that. I still got to take a break, though, for a second, because I'm genuinely spooked. I'm genuinely spooked by the hand, man. I think that's a really effective usage of like the zombie ghost trope, right? Because like the thoughts of like a fucking hand coming from underneath the couch, dude. I'm just saying. Some old broad trying to get you to cut yourself. It's a creepypasta about a kid who claims to his father that he's going on magical adventures with Fuzzy. Later, upon investigation, the dad finds out Fuzzy is a man feeding his kid LSD. Oh shit, dude. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, man. You just ruined the whole thing, dude. It's good to see me in a better mood. Zombie nips. Zombie nips, dude? That's not cool. I can't help it that I have the dead nip. Read upstairs. Well, I've already got one on deck here. The Thing That Stalks the Fields. A special request from a generous donor. So we'll definitely do that one next. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to look at other suggestions for a little bit here. I know the Raven is short, but it's just kind of, isn't it just kind of, I don't know. Isn't that a little bit fucking expected? I don't know. I'm just not in the mood to read The Raven. Come on now, buddy. We're trying to get scared. We're trying to find something that we can all get scared by. And I don't know that we found it yet, you know. We found some maybe unsettling ideas. Read The Telltale Heart. I'm from Europe. I don't eat chili. Oh, man. Come on, dude. The fuck is wrong with you, man? What exactly is your problem? Who doesn't eat chili? What a sad, absurd life you must live, sir. I pity you. I genuinely and honestly pity you in a very real way. You need a deeper voice. Grapefruiting exercises may help. Okay, well, I'll give that a try. In the meantime, though, we're going to do a little creepypasta reading, you and I, and the rest of all of you. A little reading of the pasta. Have I seen any of Aaron Ra's videos yet? No. Or Aaron Ra, or whatever the fuck he wants to be called. No, I have not. Let's read some creepypasta. By special request, The Thing That Stalks the Fields. It was a few weeks ago that the hay bales started creeping slowly away from the house. Every morning when I woke up, each had moved a few hundred feet from where it was before. I assumed it was pranksters with nothing better to do, so I ignored it. Within a few days, though, the bales began to approach the boundaries of the farm. I was tired of the whole game by then, and I decided to move them all back. It was a tedious hour to bring them all in from where they were to over near the house again, and by the time I was done, I was ready to snap the neck of whatever little pissant was screwing with me. The next morning, I found each and every one of my horses messily decapitated. The smell was what woke me up. Each one was slumped over against the side of its stall. There was no signs of the heads. I spent the rest of the day cleaning up the mess and burying the remains. It was only when I was done that I noticed the bales of hay had all returned to their positions from the day before, scattered out far into the fields. This time I left them where they were. That night I sat on my porch with my shotgun in my hand and a pot of coffee on the table beside me. I sat for hours, straining my eyes into the fields to catch a glimpse of who was moving my hay bales. Finally, I was beginning to nod off. I would have, but just as my eyes began to close, I heard a clamor and a rustling of trees from the nearby woods, so I leaned forward, my heart racing with the excitement. I was going to catch the bastard. I fumbled with my gun, I fidgeted in my seat, waiting anxiously for whoever it was to get close enough to ambush. It was only when the thing got close enough to me to make out its silhouette in the dark that I was frozen still. The thing that crept into my fields from the nearby woods didn't seem to notice me sitting there. It stalked, hunched and deliberate through the field with a posture of a tiptoeing thief. If not for the fact that it must have towered over 10 feet tall, even in its crouched position, it might have seemed almost frail. The thinness of its arms and legs and the emaciated, caved-in quality of its chest reminded me of a starving animal. Still, this thing was undeniably strong, and I watched it hoist each bale up to its arms with ease and set down very carefully a while away, taking only a few strides to cover the distance. I watched it work, moving each bale thoughtfully. Every once in a while, it would straighten up to look around at the other bale's positions in the fields before adjusting the one it was working on ever so slightly. Before it left, it looked towards the house, and I felt its eyes sweep over me in the dark, but whether it saw me or not, I couldn't tell you. And then it turned silently and crept back the way it came, disappearing into the dark woods. It took me an hour before I had the courage to move at all. I went inside after a while, but didn't get sleep that night. It was only when the sun rose that I dared step off my porch into the fields. The hay bales were where it left them. Strangely, it didn't move them as far as it had in the previous days. They were approaching something invisible in the fields, and as I looked at them, I realized they seemed to be marking some line. Indeed, as I walked around the house, I saw the distinct circle that they formed with me at the center. At first, I thought the bales were just being haphazardly moved away from the house, but now I could see that they were instead being moved towards some boundary. The thing was sending me a message. I slept uneasily that night, and only because I was exhausted. The next morning, the bales hadn't moved at all. They didn't move at all for the rest of that next week, in fact. They were finally where the thing wanted them. I made myself sick trying to interpret them. Why would this thing expend so much energy moving my hay bales, threaten me with such violence should I try and interfere? I mean, killing my horses was just that, a threat, an intelligent threat at that. It knew what would scare me. It knew that I would understand the implication. The sound of an automobile working its way up the road to my farm one morning gave me a little rush of excitement. I'd been planning to abandon the farm since I saw the thing, but I couldn't hope to leave on foot without risking it treating me like it treated my horses. But if I could get in the car with whoever was coming this way, I might be able to escape before it could stop me. I didn't know or care who it was. I just decided that the moment they stopped the car, I would jump in the passenger seat and just tell them to get the hell out of here. I didn't get the chance. The car worked its way slowly along the road, trundling across the uneven ground. I urged it silently to hurry. It was when it passed between the two bales placed on either side of the road that I began to hear a booming clatter from the woods, and the thing, it just burst suddenly from between the trees, sprinting out on all four of its terribly gangly limbs towards the car. With a few seconds, it was there, pouncing on the automobile like some predatory cat. Within moments, it was picking and peeling the vehicle's steel frame apart, working to get at the driver. The man, whoever he was, screamed all the while, and I could hear him over the crunching of metal and the shattering of glass. It was only when the thing crushed him carelessly in its hand that his screaming stopped. It tossed him away and straightened up to look right at me once again. In the sunlight, I could just see the inhumanity of it. It was composed entirely of something awful and alive, which was lashed together in a messy semblance of a human form. Whatever it was made of, it looked polished and hard. That if it weren't for the minute, if it weren't for the minute writhing of the stuff, I'd think it was made of granite. The thing retreated back into the woods, and I was left to my shock. My eyes wandered to where the car sat, the engine still sputtering, between two of the hay bales, and suddenly I understood. The message was now clear. I'm this thing's captive, and I'm not allowed visitors. Nothing may cross the borders it has set. I'm trapped here by the thing that stalks in the fields, and it demands nothing except that I never leave. Still, I don't know if I can handle being that thing's canary. I've been thinking hard for the last few days since I saw it crush that man's chest and silence him before he could finish that scream. If I crossed the hay bale border, it'd probably do the same. It'd smash my skull before I could put my hands up to protect myself, and it'd go and find a new pet. Probably keep looking until it found someone who could stand knowing that it was waiting just outside, watching it at all hours with its little insect eyes. This one's wrapping up pretty lame. I've been thinking hard for the last few days, and I might just make a run for it. That's where it ends. Wow. That one had a lot of promise at the beginning, but I gotta be honest, it sputtered out pretty hard there at the end. He should have just, left the thing formless. When it became, this gorilla Hulk of nonsense that, destroyed a car and shit, it just became less scary. You know, that shit was way scarier when it was just this thing he could barely see in the moonlight and he was its captive, you know what I mean? I get that. But that ending, though, I can't endorse that ending. That ghost doobie was pretty good, but it did freak me out a little bit when Jimi Hendrix sneaked up behind me. What are you even talking about, dude? I gotta read Crawl, dude. I don't know, dude. Maybe. We'll see what happens. Jar of Piss. Do you think I'm going to read anything that you offer, dude? You're a troll, dude. I'm not going to read Abandoned by Disney, Jar of Piss. Am I your crypt keeper? I mean, if that's what you need from me. If you need a crypt keeper, I'll be your crypt keeper. Paul, there's a giant spider demon standing right behind you. The cops are here, yeah. I could make it even more cop-like. Look at this shit, watch. Let's see. There you go. Now they're really here. You are the spider demon. Bum 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 bum. Doesn't that make you want to hear that song? Bum 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 bum. Bow 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 bow. It's time for Law and Order, man. Yeah, I gotta play Bad Boys and get my channel flagged forever. No. Come out with your hands up. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. All right, I'm tired of this. Feel like I'm in the ghetto again. That'll do for you. And you, sir, need to cease your flashing as well. Fair enough. Have you read the Creepypasta, The Showers? No, I don't think I have. I like that one. More 80s and less seizures. There you go. There you go. Well, I notice, honestly, that we really have nothing on deck. What's that one that people kept repeating over and over and over again? Let's go check it out. I gotta read one last one at least before I wrap the stream up tonight. We've got to land on something. That last one left me hungry for one more. For one more. I'm not doing the Raven dork. I'm not doing Fuzzy. Somebody was saying to do, like, I don't know. I'm not doing Fuzzy, dude. Alright, Fuzzy. Alright, well, whatever. The chat has spoken, I suppose. I'm gonna do a little fucking scanning of this bullshit, though, because I'm not gonna get... we're not going out like that. Come on, man. Fuzzy. Let's see. Okay. See, the problem with this one, the only problem with this one is I see it involves a dude talking to like a 5-year-old, and I have a really bad, like, I don't know, my voice doesn't, I guess I'll just have to do my best with the kid. But I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. I was jolted out of sleep when my 5-year-old son Kevin jumped on top of me. I let out a little yelp, both from the shock of the impact and from being ripped out of a deep sleep. A little disoriented, it took me a few moments to realize what was going on. Now, jumping up and down on the bed, Kevin yelled, "Fuzzy came again! Fuzzy came again!" I sighed, rubbed my eyes, and checked the clock. It wasn't even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. Kevin continued to jump ecstatically around the bed. By now, my husband was awake. Fuck you! Fuck you all! Oh. Oh, man. This chat. You guys are some of the most evil motherfuckers, dude. I love it, though. I love that. My husband, dude. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. That was funny. I can't even be mad. I laughed too hard to be really genuinely mad. Fuzzy came again. I was worried about doing the kid voice. Oh, man, what an inept retard. One of us, gooble gobble, gooble gobble. God, that's funny. Dude. The nastiest chat on the internet. I bow to you, chat. Well and truly done, trolls. Well and truly done. Fuzzy. Okay, read some stuff from our 2-sentence horror. Okay, we'll try it out. Let's see if we can make 2 sentences scary. Two-sentence horror. Okay, here we go. We'll just go to, like, the top posts, right? Okay. So I think these are, like, you get 1 sentence, and then when you click on it... Okay, let's see. Some of these are pretty good. All right, let's see. They say you are what you eat. That makes me an innocent man. Huh? Huh? 2-sentence horror now. These are pretty rapid fire. Let's see. Let's see if we can guess what the next one is. All right, so the first sentence of this one. I've never understood how people can fall in love with art. It wasn't until my canvas of flesh was completed that I became one with affection. What? Okay. Fair enough. What the fuck? All right, how about this one? Let's give it a try. Hold on. Let's see. My mom said she would be right back. But I'm almost to the front of the grocery line and I don't see her. Okay, come on. That's pretty spooky. I mean, if you look at it through the eyes of the toddler, right? That's a pretty spooky one. Let's try another one, all right? I'm coming home soon, the text message read. My mom expected me to do the laundry before she came back, and I didn't even get started. That may be the most frightening thing that I've ever read in my entire life. Holy shit. These are pretty good so far. Let's try another one. Father loves me very much, but sometimes he mistakes me for mother. I mean, I didn't say it first, but Werewolf said too far. I mean, maybe is that a little too much? Is that a little too pure on the horror there? And then some asshole's like, good one. All right, let's try another one. I scream my killer's name again and again, hoping to warn my daughter. The medium smiles at her and says, your father wants you to know he's at peace. That's the Shyamalan twist, dude. But then he was a ghost the whole time. Let's see. We'll do one more of these and then we're done reading for the night, or at least for a while. Today is my wedding day, and it should be the happiest day of my life. My parents say I'm doing the right thing. Oh, god damn it, I got trolled again by my own, that he's a good provider and that he'll help our family. But as I stare out of the window, waiting for the ceremony to begin, I can't help wishing I was outside playing with the other children instead. Well, it seems like that this subreddit has a particular focus that they find scary. Whatever. Thanks for doing the creepypasta thing. Yeah, man. My pleasure. It was fun. I wanted to, just have fun and play around with that for a while. I like reading them, and I like, trying to do dramatic readings of them. And we got to read some actual literature, too. Huh? We had a good time. Here's the thing. Kind of hungry, and I know there's top ramen downstairs. It doesn't take all that long to make top ramen. No. Oh yeah. It's way later than I thought it was. Yep. I'll go ahead and end the stream. Thank you guys for tuning in, though. It was a good time. I had fun. If you had fun, come back for more some other time. I'll see you later.